Clément Paramont, coming from Hub612. It is
Yes.
an accelerator and also a venture capital. Yeah, so Clément,
Good morning.
good
Everyone.
morning. Yeah, you have the floor.
Okay, so let me just share my screen. Can you see the full size presentation or?
We see the presentation mode.
Yeah, okay, hold on. Okay, there it should be better. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Clément Paramont. I'm currently working at the Hub612, and first of all, thank you very much for having me this morning. This morning, for the next, let's say, 40 minutes, I'd like to talk to you about what we do at Hub612 as a supporting structure and as an investment fund. And I'd like to talk to you especially about the fintech and insurtech markets, which are the markets we are covering as a structure. So first, just if you have any question, feel free to drop them in the comment section of the Teams webinar. And afterward, if you have any question related to the topics we are addressing, if you want to talk business opportunities, if you want to talk about fintech, anything, just feel free to reach me. You have my detail on this slide. So I may be talking to entrepreneurs. I don't know, you may tell me afterward, or perhaps future entrepreneurs. And before getting to Hub612, I'd like to tell you that this is probably the best time to launch a fintech and insurtech startup. So that's the case in all industries here in France, but I'll be focusing fintech and insurtech. And I've selected a few points to explain my thoughts. And perhaps you've seen it yesterday. It was the day before. Les Echos, which is an economic newspaper here in France, just announced that the creation of companies here, in France has never been this high, even though we were in the pandemic last year. So this provides you a good signal about startup creation in France. So first of all, I'd like to talk to you about the go-to-market strategies, which has been, I would say, accelerated by different factors. You may know them. First of all, the regulators in Europe have created I would say, a fertile ground for fintech entrepreneurs to grow. Actually, in 2007 and 2011, I think, the Payment Services Directive 1 and 2 pushed the bank to open up their system to fintech. So basically, now the bank's IT system are much more open, and now they share customer data with third parties. So perhaps in your daily life today, you are using product or services which rely on this open banking approach, the fact that your banks share your data to third parties. And this accelerated the go-to-market strategy simply because there is more data on which startup can build product. The second thing is enablers. So let's say 10 years ago, you had to build a company. It would have been super complicated because you would have to start from scratch. So let's say you want to build a saving platform. If you want to build a saving platform, you may have to do at some point a KYC, so you check the identity of your customer before he can use your platform. Maybe it's gonna have to pay for these services, so you may need a payment platform. So you will integrate Stripe to your system. But 10 years ago, it was not the case. You had to build it from scratch. It was super complicated. And the thing is, if today in just a few lines of code, you can integrate a Stripe payment platform, well, 10 years ago, you probably had to spend 6 months at least to rebuild the wheel so that your product can have this feature. And that's why we talk about go-to-market strategy. That's simply because, let's say you want to build a company from today, you have off-the-shelf bricks that you can use in your services and that you can connect easily. and that's key because the technological, I would say, breakthrough or development was the API connection. So this stands for application programming interface. Basically, it's just connectors between IT systems or services. And in 2005, there were only 3 APIs in the banking system, or let's say the fintech system market. And in 2017, from 3, it became 2,300 APIs. So you can see that there's a lot of connection between products and services. And now it's much more easier as you have people which have been building bricks for you. And now you can go to the markets much faster. And why is it important to go to the market faster? Is simply because, let's say you have a thought, you are guessing that in this market there is a specific need and you want to address it by building this product. If you have to build your product for years, perhaps when your product will be ready, the need will be gone. So what is interesting here is that those actors that you can see in this slide are basically accelerating your go-to-market strategy, so you can have a shorter feedback loop. On top of that, I want to mention the license as a service. Let's say you want to provide credit, and well, around the world, this kind of institution, credit institution, must be authorized by the regulator to carry out their operation. And if you don't do so, it's simply illegal. And to get this license to operate, well, you have to be very serious about your business. The regulator will go very deep in your business, understand how you work, what are the unit economics. And in the end, after perhaps 2 to 5 years, I don't know, you may get your license. Let's say you want to build tomorrow a company providing credit, it's going to take time. But now you have actors like Trésor in France or Bankable in UK, which are going to provide you the status of being an agent. So you will be operating under their responsibility, and you will have the, let's say, equal right to operate under the eye of the regulator. The second thing I want to say is that, in my opinion, and that's a shared opinion among the startup ecosystem, we think that France is finally getting to a mature, First of all, I would say that if you compare, mature is just an absolute point of view. You're just looking at all the others region of the world, and you see, okay, our path is being hindered. We are not going as fast as we could. Others are going way faster. What's happening, etc., etc. So here, when we compare to Israel, to the US, to China, when we simply compare a vanilla metric, which is the number of unicorn, so startups valued over €1 billion or dollar, depends on the country. Well, typically we are far behind others geographies. But the 2020 was actually a great year for startups. We got 2 or 3 new unicorn. We had Voodoo, Content Square. We had Miracle, that you may know. And we have plenty, what we like to call Soonicorn companies, which are about probably to get to such stages. Companies that you will probably know, which are Alan, Backmarket, Lydia, Swile, Payfit, Miro. Those companies are big. They are recruiting a lot. So maybe if you are if you arrive at a point in your career or in your studies where you have to apply for internship or first time job, you will probably see jobs from these companies. So what I want to say is that there are more and more big corporations, big startups in France, and this has a great impact in the ecosystem, simply because that's the right part of the slide. There's a kind of renaissance. What I mean by that is you have more and more builders which were part of the C-level executive of the company or simply part of the company. And they've grown over the last year with this company, and they've built great products. They've been directing the marketing strategy, the growth, perhaps the HR development, etc., etc. So they've been experiencing fast development of a corporation. Let's say simply a big scaling from simply 2 or 3 employee to 200. And now, after a few years, and that's normal in a career, those people are going to churn and they're going to go back and start again in the ecosystem. And they can either join a company, but most of them, as they've reached a certain peak in their life, they are creating startups, and that's what we start to see in France. You have some what we call mafia that are appearing. So former entrepreneurs working at, let's say, Criteo are now building Dimple, Lifen, Caros, and others corporation. And that's great because you have skills of well-established companies that are now shared to new players. And this, by seeing this, you can foresee the potential of a company when you see that 2 or 3 founders of a startup are coming from a Criteo IPO, let's say. And of course, it brings lots of diversity. So that's I could link this point to the government action to how can I say this in simple word? I would say seduce or make France shiny again. They've created a wide range of either support, either subsidies for foreigners to come to France. It can be French Tech Visa. So let's say you are joining a French startup working and you have to come to France to work. So they're going to provide you a French Tech Visa. Let's say you are a postdoc and you are going to join a company. France is paying a tax credit for R&D, and etc., etc. There is a lot of help provided by the government, and this brings diversity to the ecosystem in terms of background, in terms of nationality, in terms of experience, and all of this is coming to France, and that's very good. And the last point, under every rocks, there is an opportunity. It's simply that we used to think, and that's probably still the case, that companies are national located. And by this, I mean people are thinking, okay, I'm launching a company in France. This is probably only my market. And that's completely false. Over the last 5 years, now the mindset have completely changed in the ecosystem, and now people are building from day one, if they can. They are building cooperation which are in the European level, and if possible, on the global level. Related to that, it's great to have more entrepreneurs, but to build startups, you need money. There are very few cases of cooperation which are self-sustainable. They in most of the cases, in 99% or perhaps more, they need money at some point just to launch, to kickstart the product. And that's great because there is more and more money coming to France. That's why I call VC around the corner. VC stands for venture capital, and venture capitalists are investors of this fund. And what we see in those 5 ultimate years is that there are more and more players coming from the UK, coming from Germany, coming from Israel, coming from the US, which are either opening an office in France or launching, soft launching in France, just having someone scouting a project around the country. And perhaps you may know those companies which are now part of the portfolio of Accel, Balderton, GFC, or Index Fund, and you can see a very great, fantastic companies which I would love to invest in. When I say there's a lot of dry powder, it's just so that you can figure out how much money investment funds have raised to invest in startups. And you see there's $265 billion in March 2020, money that were available to invest. So they're basically money waiting for investor to invest in startups. So that's a lot of money. That's investment, that's venture and private equity money. So those are probably not the same investment ticket, but that's to tell you how much money there is to invest in entrepreneurs. So today, entrepreneurs should not be worried about finding money. My opinion is if you have a great idea, a great product, and that you are delivering, in my opinion, you won't look for money for months. If you have a great product, the money will come to you. Also, and I may interest in you, it's about Scout program. So these funds, Accel, Balderton, GFC, and others, they usually, when they arrive in a geography, they usually open perhaps an office, but they don't have much, I would say, network. So what they do, you can check online. They are opening Scout programs. And what is Scout programs? It's often it's a 6 month or 12 months deal that you have with them, and during this period you'll be wandering in Grenoble, in Lyon, in other cities of France, and you'll be looking at startups. And your goal is to provide them as much deal flow as possible. So it means qualified startups which are about to raise funds. And yeah, I think even students can do so. So if you're interested in this industry, check the Scout program. It's super interesting, and given the current dynamic of this fund, you may have the opportunity to work for them. And this led us to the supporting structure. An ecosystem is based on entrepreneurs, because at the end, those are the ones who are working, those are the ones who are building, and they are supported by a lot of players. They are supported by the state or by the public system, because you have BPI. We're gonna give subsidies or money. They're gonna raise debt around bank, so that is another player. You have VC fund which are giving money for capital. You have supporting structure which are gonna help entrepreneurs on the very early stage of the startup. You have etc., a lot of experts which are gonna help the entrepreneurs. So an ecosystem is composed of different types of players, and one important type of player is the supporting structure. Simply because I told you that there are more and more entrepreneurs which are becoming serial entrepreneurs. They are building others' company, but in most of the case, you are primo entrepreneur. This is the first time that you are building a company. So here you need support to get the mindset of entrepreneurs, to get I would say the reflex, to get the idea of how to build a company. You often don't have any network, so this structure are going to provide it to you. And this year, last year 2020 and 2021 is actually has a huge impact for supporting structure around the world. Simply because if you have an interest in such structure, you'll see that the business model are relying mostly on co-working. So you pay the co-working so that you can have the support, or you pay in equity to have the services. So basically, a startup will give at the entrance in the program 5% of the capital, and they will have the support for a certain time. And you have other models, but typically the structure are being shaken because it's not easy, to support startups from distance. Usually you need contact, you need to see the entrepreneurs, especially at such early stage, because it's basically about supporting people. And if you're not with the people, it's becoming much more complicated. So you see new models appearing, because as the economic equation is becoming complicated for this supporting structure, they are evolving. They are either merging with big corporations which are interested in having an innovative branch, let's say, or getting close to entrepreneurs. And you have a supporting structure which are building on top of their current structure an investment fund. And that's basically what we have done at Hub612, but we are not the only one. In France, we have two to three players which are doing this. You have accelerator, which is also operating in Lyon, and you have Hub612. So now let's talk about Hub612, the structure I work for. So Hub612 is a supporting structure. We help entrepreneurs from the very early stage up to their first round of investment. So what does it mean? Simply that people which are arriving at Hub612 are people with an idea, with a product, something already, let's say MVP or a prototype. They've pushed this idea toward the market, and they have been given feedback. Even if it's a bad feedback, at least they had an idea, they pushed it, and they know if it's a good or not an idea. And at this moment, we say, okay, now we can help you. We is a team of 5. We are it's clearly frugality. We are not a lot, but we are doing a lot. We are former entrepreneurs, former consultants, former investors, and we are helping entrepreneurs, especially Sylvain and Cedric, for the last 15 years. And our structure has been built by a bank. So we are actually a branch of a bank, Caisse d'Épargne Rhône-Alpes, which is part of an even bigger group that you will probably know, which is called Groupe BPCE. This group basically has Caisse d'Épargne, Banque Populaire, Natixis, Bread, Banque du Léman, etc., etc. So we are part of this group. And 4 years ago, they were like, okay, we are bankers. What we see is a revolution in the market. We see new players, new challengers, like Revolut. This is the most obvious one, but they were simply baffled by the fact that young people were capable of delivering that much with such a small team. And they were wondering, okay, but if they can do it, why can't we do it? So they said, okay, let's say we want to bring innovation. Let's say we want to bring innovation to the bank. How are we going to do that? We're going to do it by getting close to entrepreneurs. They're at the thought that we are the average of the people around you. So if you are getting closer to entrepreneurs, at some point, we don't know how, but we will probably change in terms of culture, entrepreneurial culture. We will change our processes. We will enhance the customer experience. Well, things are going to change. And that's why they bet on us. They decided to build first a co-working that became an accelerator, and that became afterward an investment fund. So the type of company we are supporting is related to the bank operation. We are supporting fintech and insurtech, so startups evolving in the finance and insurance markets, because this is in relation to the verticality of the bank. And as the bank has a lot of supporting function, let's say compliance, risk, purchasing, you have social and governance objectives. You have, I don't know, many things, logistic, and we are helping them on that as well. So in the past 4 years, we've been supporting lots of startups, mostly in the first 3 years in Lyon and in Grenoble. For instance, Odonatech is from Grenoble. But we've reached, I'd say, a limit in terms of startups, fintech and insurtech startup in those geographies. And so now we are operating in France, even though we are located in Lyon. And these startups here are a few excerpts of all the companies we are helping. You may know some of them. And we are well bullish that these companies are going to make some noise at some point. So if I get into the detail of what we provide to these entrepreneurs, well, I'll start with we are human-centric. So yeah, that's a bit weird to see such an image. So we provide coaching. So how do we work? We consider that working by batch, meaning having entrepreneurs arriving at the same times, which are going to have a program for a certain months. Let's say the first week you're going to work about the SEO, you're going to work about your branding, you're going to work about your business model, etc., etc. This is hindering their path in their startup development. We think that they are at their own pace. So to help them, we prefer to be in a passive way. So we say, and that's a deal we have with them at when they start being supported. We say, you have a certain need. Okay, come to us, explain the need, and we are gonna answer this need as fast as possible, either internally if we have the competencies, or we can rely on experts. Which are basically friends of us that we have in Lyon, Grenoble, in Paris, or other geographies, and we're gonna ask them to work for you, help you to get over this bumpy road. Also, because our goal is to support entrepreneurs from the very early stage up to their first investment round, we usually build an advisory board. So this is getting someone which have the interest in a certain project, and we're gonna ask him if he is okay to work pro bono for the startup for, let's say, 3 to 6 months in order to prepare the startup for the investment round. So basically, it's having to prepare an investment round, you have to go deep into the business. You have a lot of hypotheses, and that's normal at the pre-seed stage. But the idea of having an advisory board is to limit as much as possible the risk of not receiving an investment from business angel or from venture capitalist, and this works pretty well. The second thing we provide is network and system. So as you may guess, a lot of entrepreneurs are having the same needs. When they arrive, they need a mailing solution. At some point, they may need a customer satisfaction solution. They may need a time management solution. They may need a payment infrastructure, etc., etc. So we've decided to build a partnership with. You have a few examples of the companies we are supporting. With which we've been building partnerships, and this is extremely useful for the startups, as they usually start with very to no money at the beginning. So we are continuously improving our perks, the list of perks, and we are providing them a network. So depending on the product, your project, your hypothesis, your need, well, each company has its own startup development. Well, we provide them what they need. So let's say they want to start building something with the bank. So we're gonna provide them a direct connection with the Caisse d'Épargne, for which we work for. Let's say they are a deep tech startup and they are expecting a label from, let's say, French Tech Seed, which is a label you can get if you're a deep tech startup. We are part of the bureau of the Deep Tech Consortium here in Lyon. So we can provide such a label to the company, etc., etc. So over the last year, myself, I've been building my network, but my partners have been building their own for the last 20 years. So we are pretty connected in France. It's about also going big. So we are an actors operating only early stage. That's our thesis of support. And at some point, some companies and that's a great problem for us. They are too big for us. So what we do is that we are passing the baton to other structure, so supporting structure. It can be structures in France or in Europe. So we are part of a talent route network, which is a network of accelerator of our kind. So most of them are accelerator VC, and they are scattered around Europe. So we provide them the lead of the startup, saying, okay, the startup is well established in France, planning on launching in Italy. So I may be talking to Italy fintech. I may be going to Luxembourg, so I'm going to talk to Loft, etc., etc. So we have other supporting structure, and we have a great relationship with, as you may guess, investment fund. We are, I would say, a great structure for investment fund like Blackfin or Brega, because we have been supporting for months, if not years, some companies. And if we invest in them, this is a very good signal for the market. They say, okay, they've been doing an analysis over the last months or years, and they are probably ambitious enough to say, okay, we're going to support them for the next 5 to 10 years. So there's an opportunity here. And these investment funds are expecting a lot from structure like us, because we are helping entrepreneurs doing the building, how can I say this, climbing the first steps to get their first round of investment. And usually investment funds like Brega and Blackfin are helping them when they are planning on going across Europe or developing their teams in France. And we also, that's what I said, an accelerator VC. So we invest in entrepreneurs which are at Hub612. So we usually like to spend a few months before investing in a fund, because compared to other investors, we spend months, as I said, and usually those investors only do a few calls with the startup. They write a memorandum, they share it to their team, and then they decide if they do the investment or not. What we provide as a value is we spend time with them, we know them, and we invest in them wisely. So that's why we expect to spend some time before putting some money in a project. We put very little money. That's our investment thesis, 50 to 250K. It doesn't seem a lot, but for entrepreneurs, I can tell you that's a lot. And what we have as an effect, we are a trigger. So typically, when at such a stage, it's such risky to invest in company. What we do is we trust the company. We push the first 50K euro. And suddenly the investors get the interest in the project, because they were all looking at them. Okay, who's going to make the first move? And we usually do the first move. So we've been investing in great companies among our portfolio. You can see more of them in our website, and we are expecting. It takes time, because those are the people who are building startups. We are not. We are simply supporting them as much as we can. But these entrepreneurs are getting known at the moment, and we expect that in the coming years we will probably get a good return on investment. So now, what can we do here together? I know that maybe Grenoble Ecole de Management is a starting point for you as an entrepreneur or not. Maybe you start a company in 10 years. It doesn't matter. There's no age to start a startup. But what I want to tell you is that if you have any idea, interest, any thoughts you want to discuss about, or if you have the will to build a company, if you want to find co-founders or whatever, just know that you have my details. You can reach me, and I'll be more than happy to. If you are building a startup in fintech and insurtech, I'll be helping you. And if you are building a company in other markets, I will redirect you to other structures like us, which are operating on different markets. and there's a lot across France. So don't be afraid to launch. You will be supported. And that's all for me, I guess.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
So guys, now we open the round for the questions again. Philippe, do you want to start with your question?
Yeah. Hi, Clément. Do you hear me?
Hi, Philippe. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I was actually wondering about your offer. Basically, do you take any part of the startups when supporting them, or what the deal there? Do they pay to participate in the programs, or I don't know, is it totally public funding backed or caisse d'épargne backed? I don't know. I was wondering.
Depending on if you are in Lyon or not. It means if you are in the co-working or if you are distant based, you will be paying differently. If you are in Lyon, let's say you are for a team of 4 people, you will be paying 4 seats in the co-working, and having access to the co-working will give you access to the whole offer we have. So we don't take any equity in your company. We are simply making you pay for the seats. That's if you are in Lyon. If you are abroad, abroad can be in Grenoble.
Yeah.
But if you are not in Lyon, what we make you pay is the equivalent of 1 seat in the co-working. So even though you are a team of 5, but you are not in Lyon, we will be making you pay only 1 seat. That's what we consider important because if you don't give a price to such support on a distance-based approach, there's no connection. You are not pushed to get support, information, leads from us. So from experience, what we see is that it's better to give a small price for this support, because at least these entrepreneurs are gonna be much more asking for help, and that's what we like to do. So we consider that a seat is not a lot for a startup in creation.
Okay. And second question, actually, I was wondering what the size of the batch and how frequent do you generate batch of startups you support, basically?
So actually, there's not really there's no batch. You can get into the Hub612 at any moment. We receive a startup candidature every day actually, and we simply decide every Monday with the team whether we want to go a little bit further with such startup or not. We usually provide a feedback to the startup saying, okay, this is too early for us, this is too late for us, or this is completely out of the scope. We often receive startups which are building, I don't know, food tech, agri-tech startups which are not our markets. But yes, let's say you want to join Hub612, we can connect, and you can enter Hub612 at any point.
Okay. And it will be the same process with the seat offer, right?
Yes, exactly. That's the same. I mean, we usually receive a deck or a presentation. We often connect or discuss with the founders. We discuss it internally. Is it interesting or not for us? And afterward, if there is a go, then suddenly you start getting supported by the whole team and have access to the range of offers we have.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
And do you at the moment also have a kind of like online seats or something, or is really everything happening physical in your hubs?
Alors, we the co-working right now is open. So there's still a few entrepreneurs which are in the co-working. So there's a few small events which are occurring physically, but what we are pushing since March 2020 is online interaction, either through Slack or Discord. So we are simply talking every day on Discord. So we've in some way we've been digitalizing the workplace. It works quite well, but when you say online events, we still continue to do webinar or office hours online, things that we've been doing before. But we, I don't know what you imagine, but we don't have, let's say, a complete digital workplace. We only have a Discord where usually people are coming 5 to 10 minutes every day, and there's someone from the team which is always connected to discuss with the entrepreneurs.
Okay, right. And are there seats left at the moment?
Yes, there are. Actually, we had right before the pandemic two big corporations, Multiplacement and Sweetly, which left the co-working because they were too big for our structure. And that's great because this opened a lot of seats for entrepreneurs. So we still have plenty space to support entrepreneurs.
Okay, nice. Nothing, Abdesamad, you also have a question?
Yes. Thank you so much for... Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can.
we can hear you.
Thank you so much for this great presentation. I'm just asking about the location.
Yeah.
So it is a condition that you need to be headquarters in Lyon or Grenoble, right? To have access to your...
Not necessarily. Huh? You can have your headquarters in Switzerland, in Luxembourg. I tell you those countries because we've been supporting entrepreneurs in those two geographies, even though they were not based in Lyon. We don't care at all. What we, in the end, as we are employees of the bank, what we provide them is low signals of what is happening in the market. So in Lyon or in Grenoble, we have a very little narrow view of what is happening in the fintech market. And if we are covering France, that's better. And if we are covering Europe, that's even better because we are going to see much more innovation, ideas from entrepreneurs. So no, we are not only relying on Grenoble or Lyon startup based, but you can be based whenever you want, wherever you want.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Felipe, you have another question?
Yeah, quick question actually. Since you're backed by BPC,
yeah,
I was wondering, do you have like entrepreneurship program? Are you trying also to, support like entrepreneurs from the BPC group, or is that not the purpose of the structure?
Alors, I'm not sure there's such a. Alors, how can I say this? BPC would be the head of the organization, and you have the legs, which are Caisse d'Épargne, Banque Populaire, Natixis, etc. So perhaps in each of those legs, you have entrepreneurial initiatives, but not at the BPC level. So BPC is giving us in each leg all the liberty we want in developing innovative approach. But there is not today a connection between those legs, and perhaps that's for the best because I'm not, as I told you, the banks. But the approach of the Caisse d'Épargne is you are the average of the people around you, and if you see bankers creating startup, this is probably not a good idea. You need innovation coming from outside. So I mean, if I receive an application from an entrepreneurial project from BPC, I will look at it. But the probability of having a great project coming from inside is very little.
Okay, so it's not the perfect. Okay,
no,
makes sense.
No. Right.
Thanks.
And what do you look for in an application for the seeds or a pitch from the startups?
Well, usually, because it's such an early development of a startup, we are relying a lot on the team, simply because there is no product, at least almost no product. There is a market, so we look at the market. If the market is just let's say the market in France of I don't know an insurance for your tomatoes. I'm saying something nonsense, but it is probably not that much. So we will be looking at the market if you have or not a huge opportunity. So market, the team, super important. We'll be looking also at the distribution advantage you may have, because a startup is about finding a product market fit. Product market fit is having a product that you push on the market, but you push it through a distribution channel. And sometimes startups have been building a great unfair advantage through distribution channels. So we look at this with great attention. And what else? Yes, I mean the most important part is clearly the team part. After that, it's all about execution. So you can always look at what they've achieved over the last month, if they've been fast or not. And you can also, I would say, consider the barrier they may have been building over the last month. Let's say I was talking to you about the license that you can get from if you are a credit institution or a payment supplier. Those license you obtain them after a certain amount of time, and it provides you a great unfair advantage compared to your competitor. So even if you haven't launched anything, but if over the last months/year you've been developing partnership, you've been obtaining license that others don't have, we will clearly look at that, and this will have a huge impact while deciding if we are going to support or not the corporation, the startup.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for example, if all of this fits, but not the team, because for example, there are only maybe 2 people and they're actually missing a third or fourth, or how many people, would the hub also be a possibility to connect and to maybe, like, if you have another person in your pocket that would perfectly fit, can something like this happen? And is it then also worth applying?
Absolutely. Even though we say no to a company, we will do our best to support it. I mean, if their need is finding a CTO, let's say, we're going to say, okay, sorry, it's too early for us, because we know that if you get into the Hub612, the next 4 months, you will probably be looking at a CTO, and we won't be able to support you as much as possible. So we prefer to tell you, okay, it's too early, but we know where you can get a CTO, or at least meet with a CTO, and then you can come back at some point, and we will be clearly open to see a new application. But when we say no, it's always detailed why, and we try to be as empathic as possible and provide them the much needed support they need. Okay,
great. Thank you very much, Clément, and thank you very much for your time and your insight. It was very, very interesting.
Thank you. And so feel free to contact me at any time. You had my details, either by mails or online, and I'll be happy to answer any question. The team, Patrick, Elena, or all the person in this webinar. If you have question, I'll be there.
Okay, thank you very much, Clément. It was really insightful. Yeah.
Great.
So
have a great morning.
Now we're going to